All right, folks. So next we have my dear friend, Thierry Damiba from Quadrant.
How you beautiful people doing tonight? I just heard like one quiet good.
Seriously, guys.
That's kind of sad. Okay. I guess we're doing good. 1 second. I have to add Zoom to my system settings. And now I should be able to share my screen. Okay. Cool. Awesome. All right. So like Ojusa said, my name's Thierry Damiba. I'm here from Quadrant. We're a vector database. And my goal here tonight is for you tomorrow to go back into your office, your school, maybe your garage, and start asking, what's Quadrant? Why aren't we using Quadrant? And it's a pretty easy goal for me because the people who created this company, Andrei Vastanov and Andrei Zariani, created this company because they were working on AI applications with traditional databases, and they found they weren't getting the performance they wanted, especially when they started scaling up. So they created Quadrant from scratch, a vector database specifically to tackle AI applications. And we do focus on large scale AI applications. But as you can see below, we work with a lot of big companies. Over the weekend, OpenAI actually released something called Swarm, which is an experimental educational demo of their orchestrating agents framework. And if you search in Swarm for Quadrant, what you'll find is that they're actually using Quadrant for not only the storage, but also for the retrieval. So this is another example of how Quadrant's being used. Even the hat that I have on right now, it's this company called Eigen AI. They have an agent framework called Camel. It also uses Quadrant. So if you're thinking about how you can use Quadrant, it's going to be stuff like recommendations on your favorite video streaming platform, recommendations on social media, anomaly detection, all that good kind of stuff. And what I want to talk to you today is 15 different types of data that you can upsert into Quadrant, because we found that a lot of people are pretty familiar with how to get their cluster set up. A lot of people are familiar with the retrieval systems. They're not too familiar from expert level to beginner, what kind of data you can get in Quadrant and how to get it in. So I'm just going to quickly go through 15 different types of data. Got some nice pictures here for you as well, and kind of explain to you how you can get them into Quadrant and some use cases for them as well. So first, we're going to talk with dense text embeddings, and I'm actually going to go full screen here and close that. So dense text embeddings is going to be the typical data that you're going to see in your large language model, right? And we have a spider here because what you want to think about is whatever your query is the middle of the web, and the farther away you get from the middle, the less similar the results are going to be to the original query. So if you think about a dense text embedding application, that's like pretty much most applications you find on the internet. So to give you an example, that might be something like I don't know, like a fun chatbot or something, probably uses some kind of dense text embeddings. Then we've got sparse text embeddings. Sparse text embeddings are more focused on things like proper noun and exact matching rather than capturing the meaning of the sentence. So if you, for example, wanted to know every single time the name Hermione was said in Harry Potter, sparse would be better for that. So we not only support dense, but also sparse. And then there's also something called hybrid, where you put them both together. So those are just 3 quick. Then we've got late interaction embeddings, also called Colbert. I think it's named after Stephen. This is going to be for question and answer. So you've got a question, you've got an answer, you want to put that in a collection. It's going to work really well. So you can imagine if you're building a chatbot, that would be great. Then we've got image embedding. So if you have images and you want to describe those images using text, you can use something called Clip. There's also other models, but here I'm just going to give you Clip, where you're going to be able to turn those images into text. So if you have something like a social media platform, people want to search for boat, get pictures of a boat, this is the kind of model you'd want to use. Multilingual text embedding. So you could have data that's coming in 2 different languages, have it all in the same place. Doesn't matter how you query, you're still going to get the answer that you're looking for. That'd be great for something like a translation app, right? Duolingo or something like that. PDFs, as my man Biswaroop mentioned, and actually it's really funny how life happens like this when you're talking about the forms. I used to be a data scientist for the Department of Homeland Security, and my day-to-day job was taking government forms and doing what llama parse does. So basically, you know, what used to take me weeks, you can now do in seconds using llama parse. So good job to the folks there. So the idea is you could use something like llama parse, get the data that you need, and then you can use Quadrant. And Quadrant and Llama Index have those relationships where you can go in, use both the tools to get what you need done. Audio transcription. So of course, if you have something like a podcast, yeah, that's audio data, but you can turn it into text, build an app off of it, right? Let people search through your podcast catalog for information they're looking for. Social media embedding. So that's something like, I'm not going to mention companies, but you can think about it if you want to look for a recommended image or maybe see a similar post or maybe search for content, that would be great. Then we've also got HTML web page embedding. So obviously websites are going to come in a very specific format. Here I'm using the Nomic embed text v1 because it supports a whole lot of tokens. So that's just one example of a good model you might want to use for HTML. Then we've got text with metadata embedding. So you can not only just put in text, you can also give that text metadata. So for example, I have a document with metadata and another document with different metadata, and I can tell the category of those documents to make my search even more performant. Then we have geotag data embedding. So this would be something like a country location. You could go ahead and add the coordinates. So if you're building something like a map or anything that's going to need locations, you can also do that with Quadrant. Pre-trained embedding. So this is going to be embeddings that have already been trained on something. So one example might be you want a pre-trained embedding on legal data because you're building a legal data app. So even if you're working on something that you think is domain specific, there's probably a pre-trained embedding, or you can create a pre-trained embedding that's going to work for you. Then we've got late interaction audio transcription, same thing as audio plus late interaction, just combine them, right? You could have question and answer that's based off of audio. Then we have sparse text embedding with metadata. So earlier I mentioned sparse text embeddings, but you can also do metadata. And I lied to you a bit. I said I was going to do 15. I actually just did 14. But if there are any kinds of data that you're having trouble with, or if you're just thinking about building an application, my goal tonight is to find out what kind of data that is. And this is going to serve as a cookbook for anyone to be able to come to, search using Quadrant, of course, and then find the code that they need. Because another thing that we're starting to realize is that people don't read the docs. You got to give them the code or they're going to get frustrated and go to someone else who does have the code. So make sure that you have your code available, it runs, and there's no issues, or else realistically, people are going to go looking for another product that has that. They're not going to sit down and read through your docs. So the idea here is let's build a cool cookbook that has everything that people need. Come in, find out what kind of data you got, copy and paste it, keep it moving. So before I end here, you might have noticed that in this presentation, there were a whole lot of pictures. Last time I did a presentation, people complained there weren't enough pictures. So I just went on Twitter. You can go to Twitter. It's Thierry P. Damiba. The poll's anonymous, so please give me honest feedback. Do you think that presentation had too little or too many pictures? And then finally, I just want to show you something that you can do using Quadrant. So we just released version 1.11, and one of the things you can do in Quadrant is actually take a look at your data in the dashboard. This is an example of what a graph of some Midjourney images we uploaded looks like, right? And then here, I'm going to quickly show you in actual Quadrant. And of course, I'll make this notebook public and anyone will be able to use it. I've got my collections here that I just uploaded. And you can see here, for example, there's this audio transcription collection. We've got the demo collection, the general text, geotag. You're going to have all your information. And then even cooler than that is if I pull up the Midjourney collection, we've got this visualize feature where, I'll keep the limit at 500. But not only can you run this and actually see your points and see how they relate to each other in latent space is what we call it, or vector space, if you will. You can also graph the points, right? So I'm just going to run it with 5 now, just in the interest of time. And now, so you see this image here. We've got some kind of freaky looking owls, actually. And then we can see, oh, well, yeah, I see why this picture would be related to that one. Or I go up here. Okay, that makes sense as well. And whoop, it busted out and gives me more. So you can kind of explore your data in this visual way, which is really cool if you want to start looking at the relationships within your data. Sorry about that. So my name is Thierry Damiba. Thank you so much for letting me show you what Quadrant is. Once again, wherever you go tomorrow, find out what vector database you're using. If it's not Quadrant, find out why. Maybe someone signed a deal with the devil. You can't use the best vector database. I'm sorry, but at least have the discussion about A, vector databases, and B, Quadrant. Thank you.
for him. Oh, wow.